Hello there. So today we are going to be talking about Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare, which for obvious reasons can be a bit difficult to understand when we take a look at the Shakespearean language in the Elizabethan. And it's very difficult for us to sometimes break that down to understand what it is that he's trying to say. So we're going to take a look together and try to figure some of this out and infer from the language that William Shakespeare used what it is that he is saying. So first I'm just going to read through it here, and then we will go ahead and break it down a little bit. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou oust, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growst. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So if we start here at the beginning, we do notice the rhyme scheme, and it's here annotated on the right-hand side for you, and that is an A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G formation, which is 3 quatrains followed by a couplet. So a quatrain is these 4 lines here, and 2 of them, you can see here, day and May, and 8 and date, do rhyme, and then the couplet at the bottom here, those 2 lines rhyme as well. So the quatrain is these 4 here with 2 rhyme schemes, forming A, B, A, B, and then the couplet down here is 2 with a rhyme scheme that matches as well. So that's the first thing that we're going to notice here. It also is, in typical Shakespeare fashion, written in iambic pentameter, which means there are 10 syllables in every line of each stanza, and it's going to be in a stressed, unstressed formation with the syllables. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And you're not going to, necessarily stress it a lot like that, because it naturally happens when you speak. You don't say compare, you say compare. And it's easy to see where the stressed and unstressed syllables fall when you say a word naturally. So again, it's shall I compare thee to a summer's day, instead of saying it the opposite, which would sound very funny in our language. So again, the iambic pentameter is alive there, and you can see the stressed and unstressed symbols here down through the first quatrain there. So I have also annotated some of the things that are here in yellow are basically pieces that really may confuse us, that we may not truthfully have a really great grip on and understanding. So we're going to go through those. We see the first one here, too short a date, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. I think we all can actually connect with this. It basically means what he's trying to say here is that summer does not last long enough. And of course, in this context, he is comparing a woman that he loves to a summer's day. And so he's saying that she will not last long enough, love will not last long enough, etc. The next one here is the eye of heaven. If you think about what the eye of heaven could possibly be, you have a couple of different options, and that would be, the sun or the moon or any big star that you could see. And so it is, easy to think because of the word shines here. If you break it down a little bit, the eye of heaven is the sun. So sometimes the sun is too hot; it shines too much. Talking about the summertime. And often is his gold complexion dimmed, is over here, that next one there. And if, again, we're talking about the sun, if his gold complexion, which is the sun, is dimmed, you can visualize maybe some clouds coming over and hiding that sun a little bit, okay? The next one is every fair from fair sometime declines. And so you look here, and there are 2 words which are exactly the same, but they mean a little bit different things. So if everything that is beautiful is going to lose its beauty sometimes, and then that next line says by chance or by nature's changing course. So either naturally or just because it so happens to be that way. The next yellow highlighted is in eternal lines to time thou growst. This is talking about the poem itself, which is actually a really cool thing that William Shakespeare does in Sonnet 18, which ties into the last line there, which is, "So long lives this, and this gives life to thee." So essentially, it is possible that he is saying, because now I have written about you, it is impossible for you to die, for the idea and concept of you to die, because it is written down, and as long as people can read it, that means that you so live on. So maybe this is Shakespeare's way of making sure that the love of his life, or the content of this poem, definitely lives on. And then I have a few things here that we have been talking about in our lessons previously. We've got alliteration, which is repetitive starting sounds here. So summer shall, that is highlighted there, but thy eternal summer shall not fade. Summer shall, the S and the S is the alliteration there. And then, of course, we've got personification. This whole poem is full of it, and William Shakespeare as a whole is full of it for sure. I have it underlined here. Often is his gold complexion dimmed. Obviously, the sun is not a human, so it is not possible to say him or her. So because Shakespeare chooses to say the sun as his right here, that is personification. Then, of course, we've got imagery, which is all over poetry, and especially with William Shakespeare. And that's way up at the top. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. You can kind of visualize and imagine what a bunch of wind would do to a bunch of flowers, perhaps, which is kind of the image that that line gives us. And then lastly, the piece of metaphor, which this whole poem, it can be argued, is a giant metaphor because it is a comparison. Remember that a metaphor is a comparison between two things. Simile is a comparison using like or as. So because it does not have like or as in this line that I'm using here as an example of metaphor up at the top, it is metaphor and not simile. And that line is, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate." So we can see here that in just 14 lines of Shakespeare's poems, we have a lot of information and a lot of things to kind of digest and work through here. So it's important to take it slowly and one line at a time so that we can learn the most that we can from him, and maybe perhaps start to write our own Shakespearean sonnets in the future.